Hello. Let me check that this shit's working properly. hmm Seems to be working fine. Cool. Okay. So this here. So on this stream, I'm just doing a stream instead of uploading a video just because it's a lot easier to um then I don't have to upload the video, I don't have to write the description and everything. It's just much easier to record if I do a stream, so that's the only reason that I'm doing this. Haven't really planned anything, but just going to go off the cuff about what's basically happening in crypto markets right now. Obviously, we can see, or the big news, I guess, is in terms of price, that Bitcoin has dropped below 30,000. Um, and we're going to just have to see how we how we're going to hold up today, especially once the U.S. market opens. The U.S. market is basically going to be waking up to a Bitcoin that's below 29,000. And we're going to really get to see if we're going to get another bounce again, very similar to uh, what we saw before here, where we had essentially like multiple kind of tests of this 29 to 30,000 kind of price range. I think here we even got to 28.5, but we're going to have to see if we do get a bounce back, see what happens during this time, and yeah, let's just see how it goes. Um, I think it's pretty clear at this point. I mean, if it wasn't already blatantly obvious, I don't even need to draw the I'll draw the trend line for myself because it's just so clear. But obviously, we're experiencing a downtrend like this at the moment. You can call this what you want. It's pretty much a descending triangle at this point. So I think what we really want to see in terms of price is potentially two things. One, are we going to continue kind of going down and then kind of get back up to this 30,000 level and then really finally make that resistance, unlike previously where we just bounced right back up before we start heading further down towards like this 25,000 level? Or are we actually going to get another kind of bounce here and then retest this kind of downward sloping trend line here? Um, what do I expect? I mean, it's really hard to predict crypto markets during these types of times. But I mean, just looking at the overall downtrend and just seeing the extreme lack of volume. Now, obviously, I'm on Bitstamp, but I mean, you can go to pretty much any exchange like Binance. You can. It doesn't matter which exchange you go to. The volume is just low. And on the one hand, I mean, I guess you could say it's kind of positive in the sense that people aren't panic selling. So I guess you could say that. There's just no volume really, period. And I guess people are just kind of being patient and waiting it out. But on the other hand, you can just say as well that um, clearly, despite this low volume, the sellers are basically beating out the buyers. The buyers are just getting more and more and more and more and more and more exhausted. And we can see that with these just kind of days of very, very, very slow price action, where the sellers are just always beating out these buyers, just beating out these buyers, beating out these buyers. So if we really get to a point where we actually close below 30,000, that could potentially trigger more and more of this very, very similar price action until at some point we kind of get that responsive rebound and we're going to actually start seeing like slowly the buy pressure beat out the sell pressure. But at the moment, it's just not there. And for anybody expecting some sort of miracle news to come out or something like that, I think you're just going to be disappointed during these times because if there's anything, like I've mentioned multiple times in many different videos before. It's that in crypto, when everything is going up, all of a sudden all the good news seems to be coming out, and vice versa, when everything seems to be downtrending, um, all the good news just seems to go away. Even though actually, on like when you really look into it more, like nothing's really changed. Period. Whether it's going up or going down, there's no actual difference in like how everything is improving fundamentally, and how much usage or how much adoption there are of these cryptocurrency chains. So it just shows you how much just kind of emotion and bullshit there is in this market more than anything. So right now we're on a downtrend and we just have to really see how far we're going to go. On the last video I did just recently about the general downtrend we were experiencing, one thing I did mention was that we were going to really probably retest this $1 trillion level, and it's in terms of total market cap. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see if we're going to actually be able to hold this $1 trillion level. Um, and we're obviously getting to the point where we are retesting this again. And my just unfortunately, my overall feeling is that we we're probably not going to hold this level unless something, I mean, unless buyers come back. Now, of course, people, it's the summer, so there's always that situation where a lot of people like summers tend to be very quiet in a lot of financial markets. Buyers could be away, kind of enjoying holidays or whatever. The US is all reopening, so there could be a bunch of that going on. People just aren't really paying attention to the markets at the moment. But when you just consider still how much liquidity there are in certain coins, not just Bitcoin, which can obviously bleed a bit more, like drop maybe to 25,000, but especially coins like ADA. When you look at how high and how overvalued these projects still are, right, in the current space, and then you look at how much liquidity we're talking about before we're hitting a trillion, and how much room there still is for a lot of the larger altcoins, and then consequently going down the shit coins and the small cap shitty whatever projects. When you consider how much they're still overvalued, the $1 trillion market cap seems frankly more and more and more and more unrealistic. And I just think that the overall price action is also showing that we're seeing a very, very similar sloping downtrend as well. Here we're seeing a very, very similar thing. And it's not, I mean, it's not necessarily a terrible thing if you want to start accumulating, I mean, you should always start taking advantage of these opportunities. But um, all I would say is that at the moment, there's really no sign of this reversing, you know, and the $1 trillion level just it feels like one of those levels that is just very, very arbitrary, one of those psychological levels, but I don't really see it being an actual level where there's going to be real buying momentum coming back. Not when we're so close to this level. I mean, just think about it again logically. These coins and these projects still have a lot of room to bleed. Okay. Maybe not Bitcoin. The lower that we trend, the more and more confident I'm actually getting in potentially re-entering into a Bitcoin position. And what I would say is with ETH, as I've mentioned before, ever since it started going below 2000, I'm already starting to get extremely interested in dollar cost averaging into this again, just because I so strongly believe in the project. And I think the valuations can be a lot more justifiable for projects like this. Um, but I mean, so many other projects are just so overvalued. Omise Go is another one. This is a project, if you guys haven't really been in the space for that long, this is one of those projects that, again, is just so much really built on promises and expectations, and they just fail to deliver so often. So they've been in the space now for what I think since 2016 or whatever it is. This is actually a project which is based here in Thailand where I live, and this project has just been built on so much expectation and they constantly fail to deliver. Constantly fail to deliver. And then when you start looking at their actual market cap, 478, let's see, so let's go into coin market cap here. $435 million market cap for a project or a company that essentially has basically no working product and extremely little adoption. That just, I mean, that market cap, even for a project like this, which is in terms of ranking, okay, it's not even in the top 100 anymore, to be fair. But for a project which is basically very close to the top 100, I mean, that kind of market cap can easily be halved or more, right? I mean, that's just way too overvalued. So when you consider all those things, then holding $1 trillion market cap right now also just seems like fucking very lofty, extremely lofty. And not something that I would personally bet on. Like, I'm not going to bet on that fact, that the overall market's going to rebound and therefore, like, a lot of projects will actually, their bleeding will stop. I don't think that's the play. Like, if you're just going to try and buy coins which are cheap, that's the wrong strategy right now because you're just going to get fucked. On the other hand, as I mentioned before, if you do take certain projects like ETH or whatever, I mean, obviously I'm ETH bullish. I'm not saying that you need to be. There's definitely still a lot of fucked up things with the project. I mean, fuck, using Ethereum is such a pain in the ass with the yield farms. But despite that, if you're still bullish on the project overall, then that's a different story. If you want to start dollar cost averaging in a project that you're legitimately bullish on. And what I mean by legitimately bullish on is not that you've just even read the white paper or that you've stuck your finger up some YouTuber's ass because you believe everything that he says. But what I mean is like actually using their products. It's a great thing about Ethereum. Like their products are still extremely usable, um, and I still get value from using their Ethereum-based products. So I have no problem or no hesitation starting to dollar cost average in now when we're well below 50% of the all-time high. I have had success with a strategy before of buying at least 50% and below, start buying into certain projects or positions 50% below the all-time high, just knowing that typically, even if it takes 3 to 4 years, that we're going to eventually break out of that all-time high and trend higher. If you believe any narrative that Ethereum is going to hit $10,000, we still at this position here, you're almost basically 10xing your money. Okay, a little less, of course, but you get what I'm saying. Um, and even if you hit 8,000, you're still talking about basically almost 4 point whatever xing your money. And that's a risk to reward that for me, in my opinion, given the fundamentals, is totally worth it. So uh, while the overall feeling of the stream is certainly one of negativity and just also just kind of like, I mean, I guess this was really to be expected. At the same time, I think that really starting now, this is kind of what I was really waiting for, especially if we really get to actually close in terms of Bitcoin below 30,000 and start trending further down. These are the times when actually I think opportunities are really going to start coming in. The risk to reward is seriously there. So just start planning your dollar cost averaging into certain projects, whether that means just doing 100 a week, $100 a week, whatever. That's totally fine. Just setting aside your overall budget. Just start planning these things, right? Think about it again. If we hit $8,000, let's just say it's 2,000. If we actually hit an $8,000 Ethereum, um, let's say in even 3 years or whatever. If you invest $10,000 in that and then you're going to 4x that, you've just made $30,000. Okay, even at a 2K Ethereum. And chances are we're probably going to go quite a bit lower on that, so you're going to get even better returns than that. So when you think about it in that perspective, now that we're seeing ETH price at, for example, 1755, this is, I think, really a time to slowly, slowly start building that position out. Build that position out to a level that you feel comfortable, where if you end up getting stuck in that position for 10 plus years, okay, that would suck. And it's an amount of money that you're going to be satisfied in taking profit. Okay. That's extremely, extremely important. The biggest issue I find with people that try to hodl certain projects as prices get to these levels, and it's starting to make sense to start buying in back into certain projects. The biggest mistake I see is that people only invest like $100 fucking. Yeah, so even if you 4x $100, you're making $400. Like, of course you don't want to take profits then. Who the fuck is gonna be happy with $400, right? So you have to think about it also from that level. You can't just be so concerned about the risk, um, that you're only going to put, like, 0.0001% of your net worth into this into this potential investment. You got to also be willing to take some larger risks in order to really get that bigger reward that you're going to be satisfied with. So don't forget that, okay? Now, that actual reward that I'm talking about could be any particular amount, depending on the person. But all I know is that make sure it's an amount that you're going to seriously be satisfied with. Because nothing is fucking worse than the feeling of when it finally hits that position and then you don't want to take profits because you're not satisfied with what you've got. That's where people fail. It's not about buying in at the wrong time. It's not about that. It's about that they don't put enough of their money into their hodling position. So make sure that you do that. All right, last quick thing that I'm going to go into, um, regarding overall market cap. So let's really see if we're going to hold the $1 trillion level, but I'm quite skeptical at this point. Again, just given the amount of room we still have to bleed in a lot of projects, especially shittier ones like ADA or whatever. I'm sure we have more room to breathe, or to bleed, and we're very, very close really to a $1 trillion level. If we break below the $1 trillion level, I would like to see then some actual, you know, sideways accumulation between this previous all-time high in terms of market cap around 760 billion and the $1 trillion level. So if we really get that sideways kind of slow but clearly more sideways price action, or yeah, market cap action, I guess, in terms of overall market cap, that's going to be really, really bullish still to see. The reality is, guys, is that even if we only hold at 760 billion, that's still really, really, really bullish for crypto in the extreme long term, right? It's going to start looking a lot more bearish if we break below that. If we break below that, that's going to be a really unique situation where the whole market's just really capitulated. Then people are going to really start questioning themselves, as though, like, oh God, what kind of stupid ass narrative did I just buy in, right? But if we before we break through that, then, and if we're just holding around here between 760 billion and 1 trillion, that's more than fine. That's still extremely, extremely bullish. And if we get sideways price action here and then start trending back upwards, very, very, very positive. So don't be so worried if we don't hold this $1 trillion level and you're bullish on crypto. If we break below that, it still does certainly not mean that you need to go full bear mode in crypto. Um, I would just say, in fact, that once we break below this is really the time to start potentially accumulating and getting into the coins that you really, really, really are fond of, um, that actually have serious long-term potential. Anyways, guys, I've rambled on enough. Clearly, the coffee's working. Um, Let me know what you think. Leave a comment. Take it easy, guys.